Hello, this is Goddess7, and in the last tutorial, I showed you how to create a structure from scratch for how we're going to store our data for people, and now we're going to actually be able to convert our dummy file into a actual file. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy it to the bin folder, so that way we can actually interact with the text file that we're given with here. I'm going to go ahead and X out of this, and in our structure tools I'm going to make a region and call this prf file. Sound familiar? Probably, because we did the exact same thing in the structures, and we're doing this here again in case we want to add more file formats for our program. And see, we'll just have to use these two CS files, or even if you really want to be special, you can compile these structures to a DLL to use with your program, and I can also show you how to do that. But for now, let's go ahead and start coding our conversion tool. So I'm going to call this structure. We're going to use structures dot, and oh dear, we cannot access our everything here. Well, why can't we do that? That's because we never added the public identifier, and so everything here would be private. We need to make everything here available to the public, so that way we can use all these values anywhere. And so once everything is public, we're going to make the class 2 public, so that way we can interact with it. We can then start making our tool. I'm going to make a public function, public, and I'm not going to make it a void. I'm going to make it return a PRS file structure. I'm going to call it string array to PERS file. And what you're going to want to insert here is, of course, the strings, which are going to be loaded from a file. And what this is going to do is load a text, take strings from a text file and convert it to our structure. And now once we do that, we will see an error that it cannot declare instances in a static class, because we need to make this static. And it's also going to complain that not all code paths are going to return a value. So we're going to start out with make new file, PERS file. And so we're going to make new PERS file, structures.PERS file. We're just going to call this P for simplicity, equals new structures.PERS file. So now we created our new file, and we're going to return the final data. Now, of course, this doesn't do anything yet. So return data. Nope, sorry. P. We're going to return P. And now, once we do that, it's time to start doing our work here. We're going to look inside the dummy file. We're going to say p.name equals strings to the 0. Strings to the 0 is going to be the first line of the text. We're going to label this set name. Then next we have the age, I believe. and set age. P.age equals, we're going to convert this following thing to, no, we don't need to do that. We're going to do a uint16.parse and strings to the 1 because we're going to the next line. So it's pretty simple enough so far. And now, oh no, what do we do here? We have a list of things here. So how do we take care of that? Well, what we need to do is split this into a char array. Just going to label this get favorite numbers. And what we're going to do here is string array numbers equals strings to the 2 dot split, and we're going to split this by the char separator that we're going to use is going to be the comma, because if we look over here we have a comma that divides each of the numbers. And if we're making a new file to compile, it's important that we stay consistent so that our program can read it exactly and compile the data. But however, we're only going to use the string file for testing. There's no reason that we would ever need to convert our binary file straight to a text again, because we'll be able to read straight off a PRS file later, and you'll see how we'll do that. But for now, we're going to use a for each loop to set the numbers. So we're just going to make a we're going to call this numbers string. We're going to call this, make an array of uint64, because if we look, we're using a uint64 for the favorite numbers. Numbers equals new uint64 to the numbers string dot length. That way we can create a array, and we're not going to use lists since they take up more resources, and this is relatively more resource friendly. So for each string s in numbers string, and over here we're going to set the numbers. So numbers, and we realize we can't do this because we can't actually access each individual section. So for int I equals 0, I is less than numbers dot length. Now it doesn't matter if we do numbers or number string dot length since we're using both here, but I'm just going to do I++, and numbers dot numbers to the I equals numbers string uint64.parse number string to the I. And there we go. We now got our numbers, and now we're going to set the numbers by p dot favorite numbers equals numbers. Now what we're going to do after that is set the gender. Now you can do this however you want, but how I'm going to do this is if string to the 3 equals male, p dot gender equals 0. We're going to use 0 for male, 1 for female. Else p dot gender equals 1. And I forgot to use string to the 3. And there we go. And now we will set the gender. Actually, what would be better is 1, 2, else if strings to the 3 equals female, else now I kind of messed up here. And if it's something else, we're just going to set it to 0. And now if we look here, we have the favorite color, which is going to be quite simple. P dot favorite color equals uint32 dot parse strings to the 4. Let's just double check 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so and we're going to do something similar here for the yes and no. For the other, we want to set 0. We're going to do yes is 1, no is going to be 2 for the pets. P dot likes pets. I can just kind of copy and paste that around, but we don't need to do this. We can't do it because it's a Boolean. So we're going to need to do likes pets. False. We're going to set that to true. Likes pets. And then let's see what else we need to do here. We're going to add the friends now, but we need to state how many friends, so we know how many friends we're going to have here. So we're going to have number of friends public uint32 number of friends, except if they each have a name, which is a string, which is not going to be a constant thing since they can all be different lengths. How are we going to know how to go to each friend? Well, we're going to need to do something called offsets in the data. So we're going to use public uint32 array friend offsets. And this is going to tell us the place in binary file to reach our friend data. And this friend offset is going to be as big as the number of friends. So we're going to first get the number of friends. Which is going to be p dot number of friends equals uint32 dot parse strings to the 5. And it's good that I caught the numbers because I almost forgot to change all of these. Otherwise, we'd have some mismatched data and we'd have some errors, and that would not work out good. But so far, if we go here, let's use our program to see how good we're doing so far. So load strings, string, I can't spell strings today. Strings equals file dot, and we need to use system.io in order to use our file. Equals file dot read all lines. Okay, it's read all lines, yes. And our file is called dummy file. I accidentally hit insert. Dummy file.pers.txt. And now get data. So how we're going to see how our data is doing, we're going to use structure tools dot string away to PRS file strings. But what we're essentially doing here is we're taking that value and storing it away. So what we need to do is actually store it. So structures dot PRS file P for simplicity. And we're also going to make a debug point here. We're going to hit start to start debugging. If we get no errors, that's good. If we do, we can go and fix those later. So far we seem to have no errors, which is good, and it says we have reached the break point. So we're going to add P to the watch here so we can spy on what's going on here. So we can see that the age is 21, favorite color. The favorite numbers are all stored correctly, with the last one being 77. File size, we haven't set the friends offset or the friends. The gender is 1, likes pet is true. We haven't set the name. The name is Jimmy Fox, number of friends 3, and the version of the file is unknown. Alright, so everything so far is working. So we can always use that as a reference, just in case we need to start debug mode. We can see what's going on in our file and how the data is working out. And if we see an incorrect value or the program not running at all, we can see what's going on and fix that. So now to the number of friends. We need to figure out how we're going to get each name and age. Well, kind of like the favorite numbers, we need to declare an array. However, we're actually going to make an array that structures.friends equals new structures.friend to the p.number of friends, because we're going to make it as long as the number of friends. We're going to make another for loop. For int I equals, and we're going to say this, we're going to set it currently at 7, since we're going to be parsing strings at 7. Since this is the current line, we're at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, so that's the first string we're going to parse, and we're going to do it 7 plus I is less than 7 plus p dot number of friends. So that's how long we're going to do the value for, and I is going to increment by 1. once we do this, we're going to read each number of friends. So string values is going to be equivalent to strings to the I dot split, and we're going to split it with the dash here because we separate the name and age by the dash. And what we're going to do here is set each of the corresponding value. So friends to the I minus 7 because we need to start the array at 7 dot name equals values to the 0, which is the first in the list, and friends to the I minus 7 dot age equals uint16 dot parse, and we're going to parse the values to the 1. And now once we get this, we can get all the friends. Set friends. And now we're going to set p dot friends equals friends. Now if we compile our code here and debug it, hopefully we should get everything working. And if we go to friends 0, 20, age is 22 John, 31 Lucy, and 21 Jim. If we look, double check the data, and we can see it's all right. Now we can add more data at the end, but we're going to keep our structure the way it is now. But what about the version that we made? Now it's time to start set file specific data. And so we're going to set the version, p.version, to be 1. Just nice and simple, p.version is going to be 1. And set the magic header. Now you can do whatever we want, but I said earlier that I'm going to make a pref. So we need to declare a new array, p e r what was it again? PERS. Okay. I'm just going to do it all caps. Equals that. Okay. And p.magic equals magic. Simple enough. And now we're going to try and find the complex stuff, like we need to find the file size, and we need to find the friend offsets. Oh boy. So how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to use loops again. So first calculate the starting offset for the first friend. So uint32 orig offset, or I'm just going to call it offset, equals, and we're going to see how many we got here. We're going to need the p.magic.length plus four, since a uint32 is 4 bytes. I should elaborate. This is 4 bytes. This is 2. A byte or a U8 is 1. And a 64 is, well, if this is 4, this will be 8. So we're going to do 4, 2 plus 2 plus, you could simplify, but I'm going to leave things like this. Name dot p dot name dot length plus 1. You need to always add 1 for the string because there's a number in front of the string that's 1 byte long that tells how long the string is. And it's also important that notes that strings have a max length of 255 characters. So the gender, that's also 1 byte. Nope, we were still at the name. Age is a uint 16 plus 2. And that's, oh boy, that's 8 times how many favorite numbers. So we're going to say p dot favorite numbers dot length times 8 plus the gender. We're going to have the gender be, that's going to be a plus 1 since it's going to be 1 byte. Favorite color, that's 4 bytes. And Boolean, I'm not too sure about how many bytes a Boolean is, but I'm going to assume it's going to be 1. You can always change things around later. And the number of friends is going to be 4. And we also need to add the offset too, so that way we don't have the friends. So it's going to be 4 p dot number of friends times 4. And then there we go. And we can't convert long to uint because we need to cast it as a uint 32. We seem to be having some trouble here. We need to cast this whole thing in parentheses, so that way we cast the whole thing as a uint 32. There we go, and now that works. So now we're not just casting the pmagic.length as a uint 32, but the whole thing as a uint. And why we use unsigned ints rather than ints is because unsigned ints cannot be negative. If you do use negative numbers, then use them, but it's better to use unsigned because the first byte will always need to tell whether or not the number is negative or not, so that just kind of wastes a byte there. So it's important that we make the best use of our bytes. And now we need to gradually set and increase bytes. So we're going to make the array of uint 32 offsets equals new uint 32 to p dot number of friends, because we're going to set this to how many number of friends there are. And this time we can use a for each loop. Structures dot friend f in p dot friends I don't know where that came from, but Anyways, let's carry on. We're going to set the offsets. And I guess we do have to use for loop this time. Oof. I is less than offsets dot length I plus plus. Offset to I equals offsets. We're going to set it as offset because we're going to set initial value, which is that will always be the first offset. And so now we need to increment the offset by a certain amount so that we add it to the current friend. So we need to do p.friends to I dot name dot length plus 1 plus p dot plus how many is it? What are we storing the age as? A uint16, so that's going to be 2. But we're not storing in anything. We're going to say offset plus equals uint32. There we go. And now once we do that, it will increment the offset. And the beautiful thing about this is, since it will go through each and every one, and since friends are the last thing on our list, the final offset value will be the file size. So set file size, and p.file size equals offset. And then there we go. Hopefully it should compile and run. Okay, we got the message to press any key to continue. Now in the next tutorial, I will show you how to convert this structure we just made and actually convert it to bytes and load the bytes from it, which will be a lot easier than this. In fact, this loading bytes from an actual binary file that we created than this text file will be a lot easier. And once I show you how we're going to load and read and save the bytes, you're going to see why binary files are better than using text files like this. So I'll see you all later.